Bel woke up slowly, having felt well rested. Letting out a loud yawn and a massive stretch, he opened his eyes before sitting up slowly. He was wearing a pair of underwear and pants, but his socks, shoes, and shirt were all removed. He scratched his head as he did not even remember going to bed but gave a shrug. He noticed he was once again in his goddess's bed, but he didn't freak out. She wasn't here, and he was quite frankly getting used to waking up in her bed lately. He sighed and rubbed his forehead, trying to remember what was going on. A knock was heard, and without Bel even giving them permission, it opened. It was Riveria. Bel immediately covered his chest up with the flat sheet. "So you're finally awake," Riveria spoke, the motherly-like elf moving closer to the boy who began to shrink. He remembered her from the party, and while she didn't make fun of him, he believed that Bet may still have had a point about him. The elf looked at him curiously before sighing. "Bet isn't going to be a problem for you anymore. He won't dare attempt anything since you were part of the Familia. As for what he said, I wouldn't pay much attention to the words of a drunk," she replied, trying to soothe the boy. "People are more honest when they are drunk," Bel admitted bitterly, gently rubbing up and down both of his arms. "Perhaps that is how he thinks, but not everyone here does. But even if it is true, you can always change it," she replied. "Get dressed and let's head downstairs. Loki and the others are waiting to meet you properly," the elf said, tossing a change of clothes at Bel, hitting him in the stomach and lap. "Am I even worthy of this place?" "Worth? I can't say if you are worthy or not. That is between you and our goddess. She made the call to bring you in, and you are also the only other one who can determine your worth. That being said, if you are asking my opinion about it, I'd say you are. We caught your fight in the dungeon against the shadows. Tiona and I were both impressed. So yes, I find you worthy. Now let's go," she said, trying to get the boy to hurry up. Bel nodded and blushed, waiting for the elf to leave. Riveria raised a brow. "What? It's nothing I haven't seen before. Modesty isn't something you can afford in the dungeon," she replied sternly. "I'm not leaving until you get dressed," Riveria said, deciding to stay behind to try and toughen Bel up. Bel blushed hard and began to lower the sheet, only to stop with a flush. He stood up from the bed with the sheet still to his chest before he turned to put his back to her. He cheered internally at his solution to the problem. He dropped the sheet and put his shirt on before turning back around. He sat down and began putting in his socks before looking up at Riveria, who continued to stare at him. "You can learn and adapt. That's a good trait to have. It'll serve you well," Riveria said before exiting the room. She decided to just wait for him out there, leaving him to get dressed and look presentable. Bel exited the room quite quickly after she left, dressed in a gray t-shirt that was a couple sizes too big. His pants were a dark brown with matching boots. Riveria raised a brow at Bel's appearance, as he still had a major case of bed head. "You need to take better care of your appearance. Your hair is a mess," Riveria stated, turning to help Bel out with his hair, only for him to pull away. "Combing and brushing my hair isn't a luxury we can afford in the dungeon," Bel said, stepping away from her as he sent her words right back at her. Riveria looked at Bel incredulously before narrowing her eyes. "You need to take time to look presentable up here. You do not know what events may be going on in the manor. Don't need to embarrass our Familia even more than Loki does," Riveria stated, trying to teach Bel. Bel didn't respond verbally, but he decided to bolt, running down the stairs to escape the green-haired elf who merely shook her head. A handful. Bel entered the living room of sorts. It doubled as a library as well, for there were many bookshelves lined on the walls. A fireplace centered along the wall across from the door, multiple couches and chairs placed strategically, nightstands between couches or next to chairs. At the center was a horseshoe-shaped setup of couches, with a large brown oak table centered in the space of the U. Sitting in the top part of the horseshoe was Finn, with Loki sitting on the right leg of the horseshoe. When Bel entered, both individuals looked up. Loki was the first to speak. "You sleep all right?" she asked, showing her concern for her newest member. Finn glanced over to Loki, seeing just how much Bel has been changing her, but he looked back at Bel. "Why yes. Thanks, goddess," he said, looking down with a blush. Loki smirked a bit at how easy it was to make Bel flush. She had to wonder, though, about Liaris freeze now, as she began to get suspicious though she didn't voice it. She had no proof. Belle blushed with just about everything. Belle Cranel, right? My name is Finn and I am the captain of this familia. I'm glad to see that you are all right. Riveria and Tiona filled me in on last night. I would like to say I do not approve of what you did last night by running out and running to the dungeon without any prep, but I also cannot blame you either. The blame is on us all for allowing Bet to continue with his rant. So, I do hope you can forgive us for that, he said, though he didn't let Belle respond. On to the matter of you joining the familia. I would like to welcome you. I treat everyone like family, and that includes you. I won't force anything on you, but I would like to set you up with some training when you can. Would you accept that? Belle was overwhelmed, his eyes swirling as Finn was talking so fast, not letting him get a word in edgewise. When the topic of his training came up, Belle sputtered. Riveria opened the door behind him, though Belle refused to look back. He didn't want to see her face considering he gave her some sass earlier. He knew he should have shut up, so he focused entirely on Finn. Thank you for having me. I'm sorry for worrying you. I would take any training you want to give me, though I am not sure I should be. I'm sure there are better people to receive it. Riveria, Loki, and Finn all frowned at hearing that. Belle was extremely insecure, and none could really blame him. He didn't know how strong he was, nor did he understand just how quickly he would grow. They wouldn't want to tell him either, because it would only go to his head, and he'd make terrible decisions, especially when he's with a party. Riveria did some digging about him. All the familias, including this one, had rejected him. It's only by Loki's eccentric attitude that got him here. I can't really fault him here. Finn thought before nodding. It has nothing to do with worth. It's everything to do with, you are family now, and we look after family. Finn replied to Belle's nervous reply. I will have Riveria, Ace, and Tiona all train you in different aspects. You'll be strong and worthy in no time. Just have patience and work hard. Now, I believe it's time we get you some weapons and armor. You lost all of it, right? Finn asked, looking at Belle curiously. I should still have one of my chains, he said softly before Riveria shook her head. Soon after we rescued you, your chain snapped in half and snapped off of the armband. She spoke. Luckily for you, your amazing goddess took care of you, Loki said proudly, smirking at Belle, who looked at Loki, who had been quiet for most of the meeting. Why, you did? He stuttered, blushing again. Loki smirked at the blush. Interesting, she thought before she nodded. Oh yes, indeed. I made sure to get the best I could too, so you should be praising me. Ho ho ho, she said with a big grin, laughing at his reactions. Oh why yes. Thank you, goddess. I really am thankful. Forgive me for not praising you earlier, Belle said, bowing at the waist multiple times. Loki grinned before she started laughing. He has the greatest reactions. Even if he wasn't strong and unique, I'd still love him in this familia. Loki thought to herself, laughing in her mind and out loud. You'll find your weapons in your room, though we need to get you some armor first. I've already discussed it with Riveria, and we agreed to take you to one of Hephaestus's shops located in Babel. Finn spoke up, giving him a smile. Tiona will take you there when she gets up. She offered to do such. After that, we will get you some weapons, and if there is time, you can go into the dungeon after. Belle nodded and bowed again to Finn. Thank you so much. I won't let you down, Belle exclaimed, wanting to be worthy to Finn, so he would be able to stay within the Loki familia. Finn nodded. I'm sure you will. Now go get some breakfast. Tiona should be down shortly, Finn said before standing up to leave. Riveria kept quiet and watched as Belle fled the room, heading towards the kitchen and dining area. She turned to Finn and Loki with a frown. I do not like this. I am wholly against letting him run freely. It's going to get him killed. Riveria stated only for Finn to nod. I don't disagree with you, but it is as Loki said. You saw his skills and his stats. If we nurture him, then he'll be better off than we stagnating him. If he loses out on what makes him him, then he may never recover and end up hitting a wall at some point. A wall he wouldn't be able to climb. Also put yourself in his shoes. If he found out that someone was actively preventing him from growing, someone in your own familia, you'd probably resent that person. The best thing we can do in this situation is assist him in his growth. Make sure he understands how dangerous the dungeon can be. Information, weapons, armor, potions, anything it takes. Finn replied, explaining his reasoning for letting Belle do as he pleased. Riveria sighed and nodded. I see your point. I will do my best to guide him through his magic when he learns it. Belle's going to be awesome for this familia. I just know it. Oh, and I took a look at what he got from the loot drops. He got one of the jackbird eggs. Loki grinned. He is insanely lucky and will bring in lots of Valis. Loki nodded, trying to convince Riveria that this was the best they could do and just how good Belle would be for the familia. Riveria sighed. Fine, I see your point. That being said, she looked over at Loki. You couldn't have known all this when you first recruited him, so want to tell me why you did it, huh? She asked, giving Loki a glare which got the deity to gulp. Oh hey, look at the time. I have a god meeting to attend by, Loki said, getting up and attempting to dart out of the room. But Riveria was too fast, grabbing the goddess by her collar. No, Loki pleaded, but it was too late. She was about to get punished. Tiona came down the stairs to Belle waiting at the dining room table, his food finished before him. He looked up and blushed hard, seeing the bed-headed Tiona. She was dressed in her normal provocative clothing, making the poor, healthy male look away, his face a dark red. Belle did have a major crush on the younger Hiriute sister, but Tiona didn't recognize it just yet. A good morning, Argonaut, Tiona said, giving the white-haired boy a giant grin. Oh, she was so excited and happy to know that Belle was a part of her familia. She could spend so much time with him now. Gee, good morning, Miss Tiona, Belle said, trying not to look at her. It was hard on the poor boy to not stare at the scantily clad woman. He has never seen an Amazon before her, so it was difficult to deal with. Poor boy had no idea the fact that in his future, another Amazon would be coming after him too. You ready to go shopping? Oh, it's going to be awesome. Gonna try out all the different armors. You're going to look so cool, she said, bouncing on her heels before grabbing a quick bagel for breakfast, toasting it and eating it with a jam spread. All right, Belle said, looking down at the table which Tiona finally noticed. Everything all right, Argonaut? You feeling sick? She asked, leaning over the table from his right, her flat chest being pushed towards his face as she attempted to check his temperature with her own forehead. Gah, I am all right. Really? Belle said, immediately falling out the chair, the blush on his face growing brighter and brighter. You sure? You're really red. I'm fine. Honest. Let's just go shopping, Belle exclaimed, closing his eyes tightly as she once again leaned over in front of him, this time standing in front of him. He got up quickly, immediately turning his back to her before making his way to the door. He was completely flustered by the Amazon. Tiona tilted her head at the boy's strange actions before she followed right after him, jogging a bit to catch up until she was walking beside him. Belle blushed when she started walking beside him, his thoughts racing. It's almost like we're on a date. My goddess, I'm so lucky. Thank you for having me. He squealed inside. Tiona, on the other hand, had thoughts that were not too dissimilar. He's so cute when he gets all flustered. I don't know what has him so embarrassed, but I can't help but love all these reactions, she thought, glancing every so often to the white-haired boy as they trekked across the city, heading towards Babel. She placed her hands behind her head, stretching backwards, which pronounced her chest. When she glancing down, she noticed Belle's face was red again, and his eyes were glancing every so often to her, in particular her chest. Oh, the hero is a virgin. Oh, he's so cool. He has never seen an Amazon in person, has he? She thought, finding it endearing just how nervous and embarrassed he was to be seen with a race that was known for skimpy outfits and nonchalance towards being looked at. They generally enjoyed men looking at them. She couldn't help but blush a bit after. I'm glad he's attracted. I can't say that I'm not attracted to him either, she thought, but she shook her head. She needed to wait. If he gets stronger and can continue getting stronger, then maybe. I don't want him to die on me, she thought, before nodding to herself. She'll make her move in time. Arriving at Babel, the pair took the magical elevator powered by crystals up to the 6th floor. Upon arriving, Belle blinked and gasped at all the shops and adventurers about. He was looking back and forth, completely stunned. There's so much here. Who knew this could be all up here? I would have never thought to take the elevator. I wonder what they have. He thought before running over to a weapons shop, immediately latching onto a glass window with the excitement of a child at a birthday party. Tiona smirked, shaking her head at his antics before following him. She didn't run but merely walked. This floor is completely run by the Hephaestus Familia. Every single shop on this floor is theirs. They have a few more shops on the other floors, 2 floors above and 2 floors below, but this entire floor is dedicated to them, considering they are the more prominent blacksmith familia. Tiona explained, looking through the window at a large knife that could probably be considered a short sword. It was more like a gladius than anything, but it was engraved with hieroglyphs as well. The hilt had a few gemstones in it, a total of 4. 1 on each point of the crossguard, 1 in the center and the other as the hilt. Belle was pretty much drooling over it, but he also was looking at all the other weapons. That's a really nice weapon. It's a bit magical due to the hieroglyphs, so this is considered a spell blade. My guess is, the spell on the blade enhanced its durability. Pretty common spell for blacksmiths. Tiona commented, giving Belle a little information. She hummed and gently grabbed his arm, pulling him away. Come, we actually need to go into the shop over here. It's well known for some quality armor, if you can find it. It's also on the cheaper side, so it's good for you to be spending here in particular. She commented as she took him into the armory that was 3 stores down to the right, on the right-hand side of the hallway. When Belle entered, he noticed that most of the store was empty. There was the storekeep, a red-haired man at the counter yelling at the keeper. He decided to ignore the argument between the shop owner and the red-haired man, browsing around the store. He rummaged through shelf after shelf, sighing. You don't like them, or what, Belle? These are decent armors. They don't feel right. Some are too bulky, some too heavy. Some just don't look nice. Sorry, but I want the first armor you guys get for me to be me, Belle admitted, rubbing the back of his head in nervousness. That sounded lame, didn't it? He thought, only for Tiona to grin. All right, I getcha. I can understand that. Well, I'm sure you'll find something here that works for you. I don't wear armor myself, so I have nothing to shop here for. Why don't you wear armor, Miss Tiona? Belle asked. It was probably his first time ever using her name, and this made Tiona frown. It's not Mississippi. It's just Tiona. She scolded, giving him a pointed look before nodding. I don't use armor because it messes with my movements. I have been told that my movement is that of a dancer. Plus, it's not the Amazon way to wear armor. Very little Amazons use armor. Is that why you wear no clothing? Belle asked without hesitation, only for his eyes to widen. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have said that. I wasn't thinking. That was really insensitive, he admitted, looking away with shame. Tiona grinned at him. Oh my, so forward, Belle. Tiona teased before laughing. Don't worry, I didn't take offense. It's true. It's one of the reasons why we wear little clothing too. It's just how our race has always been. Our culture. We aren't ashamed of it, even when we catch eyes staring, she teased, giving Belle a smirk who only looked away with a heavy blush. Oh, he's too cute. Level up Argonaut, and maybe I'll show you what it's like to be with an Amazon, she thought, a slight blush on her cheeks from the thoughts that ran through her mind after thinking that. She shook her head when she noticed Belle was rummaging through a storage container located in the back corner of the store. She heard a gasp and approached, looking over his shoulder. You like these? I think so. It's light. It covers the essentials. It shouldn't impair my movement. Oh, and the color. It's amazing. Tiona smirked and nodded. Well, I think it fits you just fine. White with red. Perfect for ya. She snickered, enjoying the idea of the rabbit putting on rabbit armor. If you want it, let's buy it then, Tiona offered, watching as Belle picked up an empty crate and put all the armor pieces that he wanted into it, before carrying it over to the shop owner who was still having an argument with the red-haired guy. Come on, why is my stuff always hard to find? I work my ass off to make it, and you can't even give me any shelf space? You shove all my stuff into the back corner. What are you trying to do to me, man? The man complained. The shopkeep sighed and looked around the man. "Welcome, sir. Did you find something you like?" he asked, annoyed with the man. Belle nodded and placed the crate on top of the counter. "Yes, sir. I was hoping to find out how much these armors cost," Belle asked. The man stopped his griping and looked down, looking at Belle before the crate of armors. His eyes widened before he grinned. "Well, look at this. Someone is buying my armor," he thought with a laugh, before looking at the shopkeep. The shopkeep looked back and sighed. Why did he always get the weirdos, he would think. The armor will cost about 10,000 valis. Only 10,000 for this set? Tiona asked, frowning. "I'm guessing the armor is made by a novice blacksmith, then, or it's of poor quality?" she asked, only to get the man to turn. "Hey, I worked my ass off making that armor. Don't insult it," the man exclaimed, feeling his pride having taken a hit. Tiona raised a brow and smirked. "Sorry, didn't realize speaking the truth was a bad thing," she teased the blacksmith. Belle decided to interrupt. "You made this armor, sir?" Belle asked, looking up at the man with doe-wide eyes. The man grinned. "That's right. Welf is the name. What you got there is my specialty armor, the Pionkichi. You like what you see, huh?" Yes, sir, Mr. Welf, sir." Belle nodded a few times. Welf looked about to correct him, but shook his head. Now was not the time. "Well, little man, I hope you enjoy my armor. Hey, I have been looking to enter the dungeon with a party, and who better to go with than someone who actually likes my armor?" he asked, only for Belle to blink. "I was told to form a party multiple times, and I do like this armor, and he seems like a nice guy. Maybe. Yes, I think I will do it." Belle thought only to nod rapidly. "I would love to form a party. My familia and my advisor have been telling me over and over now to form a party, though they mentioned about getting a supporter first. Supporters are very important for sure. We will find one soon enough." Welf nodded. "Well, let's get you that armor, and let's figure out the contract," he said, before looking up and blinking. He stared at Tiona. "Wait a minute, aren't you Crusher? From the Loki familia?" He then looked down at Belle. "Who is your familia?" Welf asked, already knowing the answer. "Oh, I am part of the Loki familia? Geez, don't they have a ton of members to group up with this kid? And better blacksmiths?" Welf thought. Tiona, sensing his thoughts, smirked. "We wanted Belle to experience what it's like to be in the very beginning of an adventure. It'll help him grow better than sticking with people who are higher level than him. We will be happy to see that he's getting a dungeon partner already. You'll just make it that much easier for him to grow in the dungeon," Tiona explained, placing her right hand on her hip as she talked. "Plus, we have a good relationship with Hephaestus Familia, so this is only bound to make us even closer. All we ask is that you look after him," she said. Welf blinked but nodded. "Right. Of course. Well, I'm glad that you chose me, Belle," he said, as Belle took the armor he paid for and turned to leave, so they could speak in a more private setting. The trio exited the shop and went to the balcony, which was used to traverse around the circular building without much traffic the inner circle had. Taking a seat on a bench with Belle, while Tiona leaned against a pillar nearby, Welf stuck out his hand. "Welf Kratzo at your service. It is nice to make your acquaintance, Belle Cranel," Welf said. Belle took his hand and shook it. "It is nice to meet you, Mr. Kratzo, and to also make your acquaintance. I look forward to going into the dungeon with you." Welf smirked. "Don't call me Mr. or by my last name. Welf will do," Welf said before nodding. "I also look forward to entering the dungeon with you and seeing what you got. Not to mention, it'll only serve me better. I'll get my blacksmith skills so I can get better at being a smith." All right, Welf. "Well, shall we meet up tomorrow morning for our first dungeon crawl?" "Sounds good, kid," Welf said with a smirk before shaking Belle's hand again. He stood up and stretched. "Gives me time to get ready for it too. Need to make sure my armor and weapons are sharp and ready. See you tomorrow at the entrance to Babel," he said, making his way out of the area while Belle got up and turned to Tiona. "Tiona, I got my first party member," Belle said, a big grin on his face as the excitement of adventuring got to him. He was so happy. "I can see that. That's good. You'll conquer the dungeon and catch up to the main party in no time," she said, jutting her right hip out with her hands on her hips. Belle blushed at seeing her, looking away as best he could. Even when she wasn't doing something that could be considered lewd, Belle was just attracted. Oh, he's just too precious, Tiona thought before humming. Come on, let's get back home. We need to get you set up with your new weapons and make sure you are prepared, Tiona said. She then grinned as she thought of something. If we hurry up, I'll let you take a bath with me, she teased, watching as Belle sputtered and steam poured out of his ears. She laughed and watched as the poor guy had a meltdown. Half an hour later, they made it home, all while Belle was still flustered. What Tiona said to him wasn't even all that lewd, but it sent the boy's mind haywire. Tiona was smirking all the way home, seeing as how Belle's face had yet to return to normal colors. She was quite happy at how easy it was to get a reaction out of Belle. He didn't have a deceiving bone in his body, and that made it all the more fun to tease him when he couldn't hide his attraction. Tiona sighed. Well, I am going to go take a bath before dinner. I would go find the goddess and see about your weapons. Or maybe take a bath yourself before dinner. Either way, I'll see you around, Belle, Tiona said, waving goodbye to Belle before making her way upstairs. Belle blushed and shook his head. Get her out of your head. She is beyond you, and you aren't even close to being worthy, Belle thought bitterly. Sighing, Belle's face returned to its normal color as he made his way up the stairs to his room. Now he was depressed instead of in love. With a sigh, Belle entered his bedroom, only to stop. Loki was there. About time you got back. Did you have a good date with Tiona? She grinned, teasing the poor boy who immediately lit up red. Gee, goddess. It wasn't what it looked like, I swear. I was told this morning that she would take me shopping. It wasn't a date. Please forgive me, Belle cried, bowing down to Loki multiple times before she started cackling. She still very much enjoyed Belle and his reactions. Oh, calm down, it was a joke. I know it wasn't a date. If it was, I probably wouldn't see you for a few days, she said, her face getting a lewd look in it, trying to tease him, but Belle didn't get it as per his confusion. Oh well, he'll learn later, she thought before humming. Goddess, what are you doing in here? Figured I'd come check up on you when you returned and get you your weapons in person. Did everything go well today? Oh, thank you, goddess. Yes, everything went well today. I got me some armor, and then I also formed a contract for a party. I made a contract with a blacksmith named Welf. He is also the one who created my armor. Oh, well, ain't that a coinkydink? Loki said, humming. She had expected him to make the party with Welf, but to also purchase the armor from the said blacksmith? That was a surprise. Not that she would complain. It was actually a good thing for the both of them. Having a contract and a good relationship with a blacksmith was something any adventurer should strive for, even though it was rare. Well, that is good to hear. I expect you are going to the dungeon tomorrow then? Yes, goddess. I want to go back and go deeper, Belle said, giving her a bright childlike smile. Loki chuckled and nodded. Yeah, all right. Well, I won't stop you. But please, know your limits and know the limits of your comrades. Do not push yourself or any members of your party past their limit. It'll end up more dangerous for you if you end up going somewhere that the other member can't handle. They'll end up being more hex than boon. Understand? And take plenty of breaks too. Bring food and potions. There is no such thing as too many potions, Loki said, being very serious now instead of teasing. She cared a lot about her familia, but she was taking a very personal interest in Belle. Perhaps because he was the weakest familia member she's had in a very long time. Or perhaps it's his personality. She doesn't know exactly why, but it didn't matter in the end. She was going to be a proper goddess to this boy. Yes, goddess. I won't let you down, Belle said, his smile even brighter than before. He felt invigorated from how much she cared. I will take good care of myself and Welf. I will come back to you every time, he said. Loki blushed a bit at the last bit, though Belle was a bit too naive to understand what he just said. Good. Now, about your weapons. I want to make this very clear. These are one-of-a-kind weapons that I had tailor-made just for you. You are not to sell these or lose these. Take very good care of them, okay? Loki said, before pulling out a small rectangular box, about 1.5 feet in length and 4 inches in width. Another box, This time a good-sized square was put next to the smaller one. The box was a good 4-foot square, with a foot of height. "Here," she said, placing the large box in front of Belle, who blushed. "Goddess, why are you so nice to me? Aren't these things better for more experience to have? Why am I getting treated so differently?" Belle asked, placing his hands on either side of the large box. Loki sighed and looked up at the ceiling, thinking for about 20 seconds before she decided to speak. "I haven't been the greatest of goddesses in a long while. I've been taking it easy and letting my children do most of the work. I haven't personally recruited in many years. I've not actively taken care of a child. It is the duty of a deity to take care of their children. It's not that I've neglected, but I've forgotten what it's like to really take care of a child. You were something special the first time we met, and you somehow got through to me that I needed to be a proper goddess. Perhaps I am being selfish in giving you these weapons instead of handing it over to one of my other children. But it's what I want. I want you, of all people, to survive. I want you to grow strong. So, it is with that I give you this gift. The only thing I ask is that you take care of these items so that they may take care of you. All right." Belle looked at Loki with tears in his eyes, before he immediately jumped and latched onto her neck, hugging her tightly. He buried his face in her chest, crying as he held her. "Oh goddess, thank you. Thank you for taking me into the Familia. Thank you for taking care of me. I know that I am not worthy, but I will be. I will make you proud. Just thank you," he cried. Loki flushed in response to the sudden latching onto her, but she relaxed and gently held her child to her chest, rubbing his back. "I hope to make you stronger and into a better man. Someone with the confidence needed to succeed. Turn you into someone who doesn't cry so much. I'll be here for you, Belle." She thought the pair would stay like this for a long while.